we're going to watch this video. Okay, it's just a mail. Getting notifications. People at my door. It always bothers me. So we're going to watch the Texas residents reel from the incident that happened a few days ago. This is the CBS News video about it, and they did this pretty much right after the event. So the information in this video is going to be behind. It's going to be out of date to some extent because it's, I believe, day of. And I'm going to explain as we go why I hate watching these things and reading these things day of, and why I give them space and room to breathe before I care to pay any attention to what goes on in these things. Because the media does the same thing every time. And when I say the media does the same thing every time, I mean literally everybody talking about it the day of does the exact same thing. And it's annoying. I really hate the way they go about it, but they do the same shit every time.
A Dallas area community right now reeling from this weekend's mass shooting, just the second deadliest to occur in the nation this year.
Okay, so happened Saturday. This was 3 days ago. So what, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So this was 2 days after. So it won't be as out of date. It's still out of date, but it won't be as out of date as I was saying.
Police say a gunman killed 8 people, including children, and wounded at least 7 others at an outlet mall in Allen, Texas. This was on Saturday. Thousands, including Governor Greg Abbott, gathered at a Texas church last night to honor the victims. A U.S. Navy veteran who was shopping at the outlets at the time rushed in to help victims and recounted what he saw on CBS Mornings.
I then saw another man who was shot in his shoulder that was on the ground and struggling. And next to him was a small child, approximately 7 to 8 years old, who was lying there, and I wasn't sure if she was still with us. Next to her was an adult female who was very heavily wounded, and then draped onto her, close to her head, was another young female, face down.
See, and that's all really, really tragic. Like, keep in mind the way that this person is going about this. Keep in mind the way that he described these people, right? Gender, rough age, severity of injuries. That's it. That is it. That's all you needed to know. Keep in mind that that's the way that the veteran who reacted to try and help people out responds and reports on what he witnessed. As an eyewitness.
Joining us now from Allen, Texas, CBS News correspondent Nicole Killian. Nicole, everything that man described.
Also, it's important to take note, this guy clearly has an accent. That doesn't mean that he's not American, but he is from somewhere else. So, culturally, he's going to have opinions that he's going to bring into this that have nothing to do with American culture. They're going to contradict American culture, and they're going to most likely contradict American rights, because that's what happens every time somebody from another country has input that they want to give on this, as if they have some sort of almighty, all-knowing insight.
It's traumatic. Everything that folks there have experienced is unnerving. Just talk to us about the people you've spoken with and how folks are coping today.
Yeah, well, it is a very sad scene. I mean, as you can see, there is a makeshift memorial behind me that continues to grow as people stop and bring flowers. We've seen handlers with therapy dogs and, people petting those dogs for comfort. So at this point, people are still just processing and trying to recover and heal as best they can under a circumstance like this. I did speak to one woman who is a longtime resident here in Allen, and she talked about how this is very personal, not just for her, but for this community.
Also, if you're paying attention to the people you can see off camera that are walking around, they're pretty much all of one nationality, one race, and this is important for later.
Take a listen.
Even though nobody I know died, but this is my city, so we're all family. So
Yep.
It's like I feel like somebody I know died, and I want to bear their burden, and then I want to try with everything possible for it not to happen to me and to the people that I love, but I can't guarantee that. I'm going to look around tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the catch right there, what she just said, right? And this is a thing that goes along for every single person in every single country that's not dealing with some sort of issue that makes them psychotic in a way that makes them feel a need to harm other people, to end other people, to attack other people, etc. This is the way that most people on the planet feel, is what she just said. And the thing is, where she said there's nothing she can do about it, right? We'll go back and listen.
And to the people that I love, but I can't guarantee that.
Now, see, I can't guarantee that. This is something that people really need to understand. None of us can guarantee your safety. Nobody can guarantee your safety. If you want to be free and have freedom, there's a certain amount of risk associated to that freedom. Because for you to be free, that means other people have to be equally free. And if everybody is equally free, that means that people who want to do this type of thing are going to do this type of thing. And they don't need the tools this guy used to do it. They can use whatever tools they want. Therefore, it's important that everybody who's free not only be free and have these ideas and desires to keep people safe, but have the ability to do so. And the best way to be able to do so is to be able to defend and protect yourself and the people around you. That requires you to have access to the tools to best defend yourself and the people around you, as well as the knowledge and skill set to do so. It's important that you be able to do so.
I'm going to look around tomorrow whenever they do open this up, and I'll be thinking, what is my exit strategy instead of going back to life?
I mean, what is my exit strategy instead of going back to life? Like, welcome. Welcome. You're worried about this as somebody from the area, right? But you weren't there when it happened. And you're just, oh, I'm going to be worried about my safety. Like, what's my exit strategy? I do this literally everywhere I go all the time anyways. When I'm driving, it's in the back of my mind. Ah, shit, if something were to happen, how am I going to respond? If something were to take place right there and this was what it was, how would I respond? What would I do? How would I react? Why would I do it this way? Why would I do it that way? What are the factors that go into this? Because the thing is, somebody who's been through that kind of experience is going to do that all the time. Somebody who hasn't been through that experience, like her, you're concerned about it and you're going to worry about, oh no, how do I get out of here? Not just the minutia of, okay, so what if this is a scenario, what am I going to do? What if that's a scenario, what am I going to do? It's a whole different thing.
Because life as we knew it in Allen, Texas, it will be no more.
That's not true. That's not true at all. And I can say this as somebody who grew up in Denver, Colorado, pre-Columbine and post-Columbine. I can tell you right now that this is not what's going to happen. What's going to happen that's going to change Allen is the people who are not necessarily from Allen, although people from Allen will do this as well, who are going to be pushed into making votes emotionally that are going to take away your ability to protect yourself because they believe, for some reason, that giving the government the ability to have these types of options is going to mean that nobody else has these options available, although criminals will still obtain the means of doing whatever it is they want to do. And the fact is, they're going to cause more harm with other means than they are with these tools, because if you start giving them different tools to use, these tools are going to disappear. And for the most part, these tools, they're getting the types of tools, and by tools I mean they're getting specific calibers and ammunition that are not necessarily designed for eliminating a target as much as they are designed for neutralizing a target. Now, neutralizing doesn't mean that you don't eliminate. That all depends on where you hit the target. The thing is, there are far more devastating ways to go about it, and in every one of these situations, almost every one of these situations, I could easily show you the difference between what it is that they are using and the devastation of that and the reasoning that that is what it is and why it's for neutralization, not elimination, versus something else. I don't want to do that because all that would do is provide information to people who are ignorant to what the hell they're doing and just assume if I do A, then B. And they don't understand that that's not necessarily the way it works. Case in point. People who are going to argue with that statement I just made are going to say that I am wrong because that's all that these do and that's all that they ever do and that's what they're designed for. And your comment and argument in that way is every bit as ignorant as the person who buys these tools, assuming that's exactly the outcome they're going to get. You have just as little information as they do. And that's why I don't want to give the details. Because as long as people have this ignorant view of it, people are going to continue using less effective means and tools than they would otherwise use.
So that gives you some insight into how some people are reacting here. And
that does not give you some insight into some people. This is one of the things the news does that I hate. That gives you some insight into how some of the people here feel. No, it doesn't. It gives you insight into one person who was not there, who has a specific feeling on this that they want you to hear. Not everybody, not the majority, not anybody else. It was one person who has a viewpoint that the news wanted you to hear, and they're framing it with their words as if it's a group of people feeling this way when they spoke to one person that they showed you the footage from. I guarantee you they interviewed more people than one, but that's the one person they're showing you.
And what Cheryl told me, she actually helped construct this memorial.
Also, keep in mind, the footage they showed you of that veteran who went in and responded and firsthand saw what was going on, they didn't ask him how he feels about this moving forward either, did they? They had this discussion with somebody who wasn't even there.
And what Cheryl told me, she actually helped construct this memorial and told me that there will be a vigil here later this week to pray for members here in the community, including the victims.
Hey, Nicole, what is the latest on the gunman?
We all hope that the latest on the gunman is elimination, and we don't care who did it or how, okay? Plain and simple. Some people deserve to continue breathing and go to trial, and some people, not so much.
Well, what we know is that his name is Mauricio Garcia. He is...
Yep, let's always give the shooter a name. Everybody needs to know the shooter's name. That way we can memorialize them. We can make them immortal through the internet and the things that we know about them, right? We need to look into their past and share everything we know about them. That way we can memorialize them. That way people want to act and behave the same way they did. Now keep in mind, once again, the Nashville incident, they didn't want to give you this person's name. They didn't want to release the manifesto. And why did they not want to do that? They didn't want to release the manifesto because if they release the manifesto, it gives you a bad look on the trans community and the trans activists. And they don't want to do that, so they didn't give you the manifesto. But what they told you the reason was is very different. They told you the reason was they didn't want copycat incidents. But here we go with another one of these incidents where they can make it fit a certain framework and narrative in the way they discuss it. So they're going to talk about this person, and they're going to amplify his image. This nobody knows him, nobody gives a shit about him, nobody knows who he is, aside from people he personally knows, his immediate family and friends, etc. And we're supposed to all sit here and know everything about this person now, because that's how they want to do this. They wonder why this happens more and more often, but when they acknowledge that they are the problem when it's something like a trans person with a whole manifesto, they won't talk about the manifesto. But when they have something like this that they can fit a certain framework around, they need to go into detail. Never mind the fact that the result of copycats, quote unquote, is going to be the same thing.
32, and it is believed, we still don't know a motive, and quite frankly, we don't know at this time a lot of details about the circumstances surrounding this shooting. We have not heard much from law enforcement here other than that he is deceased. We do know...
Obviously, look, he's deceased. Good, done. Why do we need to investigate him further? As the media, as society, why are we investigating him further? You know why the police don't have anything they're giving you? Because they do not discuss the details of an active investigation. So the media does not have actual details pertaining to this individual. They are only telling you things that they have on conjecture. They are only telling you things that they have on thought, like little brain games and little bullshit mazes and puzzles they're putting together through conjecture and opinion. They don't have any actual facts. They don't have any actual evidence they can go on about this individual. Everything is conjecture. And the reason is because it is still actively investigated. And the police do not release information about an active investigation. This is ridiculous.
That he potentially had some extremist ties to right-wing neo-Nazi groups.
Right-wing neo-Nazi groups. So why is it they always tie right-wing to this? Why? It's because they want to make you not like the right wing. Now, I am somebody who sits center-right anarchist, okay? Center-right anarchist. That means that sometimes I agree with limited amount of government activity, and it typically tends to lean half a step to the right. And that's about it. Now, the fact is, or you could associate it to the right, I guess, because me being an anarchist, I think everybody should have access to weapons, training, and knowledge. Like a well-regulated militia. You know what that means? That means that you, me, us, the people, are supposed to be armed, knowledgeable, and capable. Congratulations. That is a well-regulated militia. So that is what that means. But because of the fact that that's my stance on it, it's center-right. It's not just center, because they've made this a political, polarizing thing. So the reason that they associate right-wing to neo-Nazis, right-wings to fascists, right-wings to things that you are mentally supposed to associate to something negative, because why fascism is bad? Why? World War II Germany, right? So never mind the fact that socialism leads to fascism, totalitarianism, and authoritarianism every single time. Never mind that very specific historic trend. They associate it to the right wing because the media is all very left-leaning. So they want you to look negatively on the right wing. The media funds the left wing more heavily than they fund the right wing through their lobbying. The people who run the media and own the media sit on the council, like the CEO chairs, right, up on the board for the media. They donate very heavily to the left wing. So they want you to look favorably on the left wing, not the right wing, the left wing. Why is that? Because it's where they're putting most of their money when they're investing in this. They invest in the right as well, but not as heavily. Not as heavily. So they want you to look less favorably on the right, more favorably on the left. So they're going to use things that are triggering like this, things that are associated to negativity, things that are associated to you having a bad emotive response, because they want you to be emotional and not think. Because if you think, you get past your emotional response. They don't want you applying logic. They don't want you applying reason. They want you to act on emotion, because they can manipulate emotion. So they want you to associate bad things to one side and good things to the other. That way they get you to think that the other side, the side they've made look good, is going to do good. But they're not going to mention the fact that for about a decade, from the mid-90s to the mid-early 2000s, it was about 1991, 2004, I think, somewhere in that area, we had an AR ban. You know what happened? Violent crime and things like this specifically increased. Across the board, increased. So we said, well, this is clearly not working, and we got rid of it. They went back down to where they were. They want to tell you that these types of incidents are the leading cause of death for children and teenagers. But what they don't want to show you, and what they don't want to tell you, is that more people die from accidents. Tripping and falling kills more people than this type of thing every year in this country. Did you know that? Did you know that your diet and lack of exercise is more likely to kill you in this country than this is? Did you know that a car accident is more likely to kill you in this country than this is? Did you know you're more likely to get hit by a drunk driver in this country than be involved in one of these situations? So they don't tell you these things because they want you to not like this tool. They're trying to make you not like one party, and it's the party that tells you everyone should have access to these things. With the regulations that we already have, regulations that prevent you from having a machine gun, a fully automatic weapon, an actual weapon that the military has, they want to keep you from having. That's already in place. Background checks, that's already in place. Did you know that when you do a background check that it goes through the FBI database? And that because it goes through the FBI database, when you complete your purchase of that firearm, they have the serial number from that firearm entered into the FBI database with your name as a purchase. It's essentially registered when you purchase a gun legally anyways. Did you know that? Because these are all things that they push for that are already taking place, that they act like you should know about and that we need more of. But what are the Democratic Party representatives really doing if what they're telling you they want to do are things that we already have in place? Then what is it that they really want to do? Because what they're saying they want to do and what we need to do already exists. In fact, until 1986, you could go pretty much anywhere in this country to a firearm shop and buy a fully automatic weapon. And we didn't have these types of incidents until the 90s. 1986 is when they put in the law federally stopping you from being able to purchase a fully automatic weapon. Were you aware of this? Because now it's every time you actuate the trigger, every time you pull it to the back, it goes bang. And you have to release it all the way forward to reset the shooting mechanism, the firing mechanism, and reset your firing sequence, and then pull the trigger again. It's only going to go bang as fast as you can do that motion. That's it. That's not a military weapon. That's not a tool of war. A tool of war, I'm going to go like this, and it's going to go until it just goes click, 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 click. Because it's empty. And I never have to let go of it. That is a tool of war. The rifles that the military have that resemble these rifles that people are being told to be scared of have a switch on it. It's called a selector switch. This is where your safety is on these firearms. So it'll have 3 options in the military. It'll have safe. It'll have single fire, which is, like I was saying, every time you squeeze the trigger, you get 1 round, and then you have to release to reset the firing sequence and squeeze again. That is single fire. Then it'll have a third option. The third option is one of 2 things according to military definition of an assault weapon, which is the only place this is defined. It has to have 3 options. It has to have safe, it has to have single or fire, and it has to have either burst or full auto. It has to have an option to where when you squeeze the trigger one time, more than 1 round will come out of the end of that barrel. It has to be an option for it to be qualified to even be utilized in the military. These are not tools of war. We use similar tools in war, yes. But that doesn't mean that that's what these are. And I guarantee you they're going to bring this up as well, because God forbid they not try to make this a villain every single time.
Again, though, it is unclear what motivated him to come here to this mall last Saturday.
Also, everything that I've seen that supports this narrative that he has ties to white supremacist neo-Nazi groups and these photos come from somebody who is unverified as a source. They call him Source, mind you, who found these photos on social media. Now, when you hear social media, you're probably thinking Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, something along these lines. No, that's not it. You know where they found this? some profile on Russia's second largest social media network. Not something utilized in America. Russia's second largest social media platform. That's where they found this. And the CIA is telling you that this is where this information came from, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the CIA who's saying, oh, no, this is one of our sources, and this is a valid place of where we gather our intel from on a regular basis. It's all very good, and blah, 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 blah. And that's what they're saying. Which makes me question, what the hell is the CIA trying to do here? Because that makes no sense for them to have any kind of reason to divulge where they're getting information, where they're getting assets, if this guy is the source that they use, as they claimed. What the fuck is going on? You don't out a source. It puts them at risk. It burns your source. It removes your ability to gain intel there. It means that now, if they're actually using this social media platform to gain intel on Russia, Russia's now cracking down on it and censoring it heavily, because that's how communism works. It's why they have this platform and you don't. It's why they're using that platform second largest instead of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, right? The largest ones here in the U.S. The reason they're not using that is because communism limits what you have and censors it heavily. There you have it. So why would you burn a source? Why would you burn the location of information gathering that you supposedly are gaining a lot of credible information from, etc.? That doesn't make sense to say, but that is where they're saying this all came from and how they got it.
To commit this carnage.
And I guess no matter the motivation, Nicole, we do know that he was using an AR-15 style rifle.
There it is. Did I not just tell you that this is what the hell they were going to say? This is going to be brain-dead comments from somebody who knows nothing about firearms.
Commonly a thread in these mass shootings, and there's this discussion of banning assault weapons in the U.S. What was
Define assault weapon. I gave you the definition of assault weapons according to the military, which is the only place that I can find a definition for assault weapons that's actually consistent. Everywhere else it seems to change all the damn time based on who wants to throw the word out there. And if you want a firearm that falls into the military's definition of an assault weapon, you have to gain special licensing. You have to go through further background checks. You have to spend an extremely large amount of money in order to obtain this licensing and credentials to purchase these weapons. And then, like I said, you have to go through a heavily intense background check for every single purchase that you make to get a gun like this in this country. So what purpose does it solve? Oh, it looks scary. Okay. But did you know I can get this in a .22 long rifle? Did you know that you can get an AR-15 style weapon in the caliber of a .22 long rifle, a gun that literally is not going to be useful on anything larger than a rabbit? Did you know that? That's what this is telling you to be, is be afraid of this thing every time. Also, the majority of times that you have an AR-15 style weapon, as they put it, or an assault weapon, as is more commonly used, in an incident like this, it is used more often for self-defense or defense of others than it is for perpetrating the action of the event. Would you like to know the numbers on the difference? Because even if we include people self-deleting with these types of things, the amount of numbers is still a couple thousand, maybe 10,000. Let's just go high and say 10,000 a year. 10,000 a year. Now you might go, oh my God, that's 10,000 lives. It's still a fraction of heart attack caused through poor diet and exercise. It's still a fraction of car accidents. It's still a fraction of medical mistakes and mishaps. Do you understand, or like drug overdose rather? Do you understand this? You're not trying to limit those things, but you want to limit this. It's absurd. Not to mention the fact that, once again, these rifles, when they are used, once again, we'll say 10,000 people in these types of events to include self-deletion. self-defense, more than 2 million. So you're going to say these 10,000 are more important than the 2 million. Who are you to make that choice? That's absurd. That means that you're okay with going from 10,000 to 2 million. That's what that means. Because preventing people from purchasing this stops nothing.
Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy this morning said a greater focus should be placed on preventing them being purchased illegally rather than banning them altogether. Let's just share with our viewers what he...
How are you going to prevent them being purchased illegally? It's happening illegally. Stop the crimes that are going on then, assholes. Why is it that they act like this is rocket science? ATF is supposed to be doing that. That is what ATF is supposed to do. They're supposed to be stopping illegal transfer of firearms. Congratulations. How about the fact that our CIA traded firearms to the cartel, who then utilizes it across Mexico and sells them illegally in the United States during Operation Fast and Furious? How about that? Because do you think that was a one-time thing? Are you that ridiculously dense that you would assume so? Meanwhile, you have people like this and this and this who are all going to tell you this nonsense about these firearms, who know nothing about firearms, and you're going to have people who say that I don't know what I'm talking about when it was my job in the military to be the firearms expert. It was my job for my airframe to be the firearms expert. I had to not just know about the cannons on my plane, I had to be the expert in the 9mm that we had as a sidearm, as well as the M4 that we had as a primary for our person, as well as the M240 and the minigun that you could have on the helicopter that I didn't fly on, as well as the 25mm on the other gunship that I didn't fly on. I had to be the weapons expert in every weapon that I could possibly come in contact with for my job, because that was the job that I was given. And they're going to tell you that they have all this information and wisdom and that they're experts, and people on the internet are going to pretend like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, even though that is my background, to be the weapons expert.
We have to recognize that we can ban these weapons, but there's millions already out there, and somebody who decides that
hundreds of millions
to obtain one illegally probably can.
And they're not going to get them from one of those hundreds of millions. They're going to get it from the cartel. They're going to get it from people who get their guns to sell illegally from the cartel. They're going to get them from people like the IRA. They're going to get them from illegal groups, well, from groups that function in an illegal capacity to sell these things. If you make these illegal, you're giving these types of organizations another avenue to make revenue. Is that really what you want? Because that is what the argument is here.
So we need to stop that illegal transaction.
How? For fuck's sake. This is already what the ATF is supposed to be doing. This is already what the ATF is supposed to do. This, right here. Let's say the Banditos, which is a bike club, a motorcycle club. And Hell's Angels and the cartel are all selling firearms across. Let's just assume they're the three groups responsible for importing and selling firearms illegally to individuals who want them across the country illegally. That's already the ATF's job. It's already illegal to do. That's why it's illegal transfer of firearms. This is already the fucking law. So what is it they need to be doing? This makes no sense. You know why they're not saying how to do this? Is because these are the same assholes who told you to defund the police. And now what they need to do is tell you to fund the ATF.
So, Nicole, what is the lawmaker response to all of this? Because it seems to be a circular conversation we may have heard before.
It is circular because you have the people on one side who are like, we don't need to limit people's ability to get this to defend themselves. We need to better actuate and enforce the laws that we already have for the people breaking the fucking law. That's what we need to do. Not only that, But how about we talk about the psychological issue that this is clearly derived from? How about we talk about the social issues that have resulted in this clearly becoming a pronounced problem in our society? How about we talk about the societal shifts and changes that have taken place since the 80s, pre this being a problem, and when you could legally buy a fully automatic weapon, and how that has led to this? How about we address those things? Oh, we can't bring those up because those are issues like two-parent households, a nuclear family. Oh, we can't do that though. We can't talk about that because now we can't have nuclear families. We need to justify single-parent households. We need to justify people not having a second parent in the household. Like, I understand if your relationship doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a two-parent household. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be wanting to have somebody who's good for you and your children to help raise your children. A two-parent household is far better for your children just in general. It's better for them to become successful. It's better for them to not turn to a life of crime. It's better for them to have mental stability. It's better for them to develop in a positive, healthy way. All of these things have been medically proven, but we can't talk about that because we need more social programs. We need more welfare. We need more of these things. The government needs more and more, and you need less and less and less. You know what else used to be more pronounced? Religion. People used to go to church more often. Now, I don't care if you go to church or if you go to mosque or if you go to temple. I don't give a fuck. The fact is, people used to go to a religious grouping and build a foundation on a religious front of morals and rights and saying, hey, you know what? We should all be more peaceful and look for a better life in general. We should be more kind to one another. And that was the outlook as a nation toward each other. That's why we overcame slavery faster than any other nation that was established with it already in place. That's why we overcame racism in large part faster than any other nation that's dealt with it since its foundation. This is why we were addressing things like not just Jim Crow, but post-Jim Crow racial issues faster than anywhere else. Up until recently. Do you understand that we were making amazing progress on all these fronts up until recently? We had gay people say, look, we want to be able to get married and have it be recognized by the federal government so that we can have all the same tax benefits. And we said, okay, why is this a problem? And we made sure it happened. It happened almost instantaneously. There was very little effort. There wasn't a fight for it. There was a, hey, this is what we want, a little bit of discussion, some argument and discussion for a couple years, and then bam, you got it, right? But that's never enough. And now what's happened is let the government raise your children at school. These teachers should be able to openly talk to your children who are younger than 10 about their sex life. Excuse me, why? That's strange. It's not like, I don't care how your sex life is. That is strange. That is legitimately saying these people should raise your kids, not you. That's what that is. This is a really strange time. And the fact is, if we ignore all of these social things, as well as ignoring the very clear connection to mental illness that these things create, that they help to nurture in our society, it's only going to get worse. And if you think that that's not an aspect of it that's important, what happened to serial killers? When's the last time you heard about one of them? You see, serial killers don't really exist anymore, do they? These people doing this type of thing is what exists now. Now, why is that? It's not because the mental illnesses that we know, that are documented, that are very well known and discussed with serial killers, it's not because that's gone away. I think they've just replaced it with this. So what are we doing about that? And if you think that somehow you're ever going to have a way of doing a background check that's going to catch somebody with a mental illness that's not showing signs of mental illness, you're out of your mind. But that doesn't mean that you need to stop everybody from obtaining something. Should we stop everybody from obtaining bleach and mothballs? Because if you put them together, it will kill everybody who breathes the air that comes from that combination? Should we? Because I'm just throwing it out there as one very well-known solution and combination of household cleaning items that are very common that you do not need a background check for that could kill everybody in an entire building without a sound. Before anybody knows what's going on. You can't stop these people from wanting to hurt people. Stop aiming your aggression at a tool that does nothing. It's being wielded by somebody who wants to cause harm. They could do this with a hammer. They could do it with literally any tool they want. Stop attacking the tool. Stop thinking the tool is going to be how you solve this. It's not. Did Timothy McVeigh use a pow pow? Did he use a bang bang? Did he use a pew pew? Not at all. Not at all. The 1991 Twin Towers attack, did they use a pew pew? Did they use a pow pow? Did they use a bang bang? Nope. What about 9/11? All the airplanes that were taken? Nope. Not one. Not one. I can go on and on and on and give you examples of people who just want to hurt other people. They want to cause damage and hurt other people that did not at all use a firearm. This isn't going to solve the problem. All it's going to do is take away your ability to defend yourself. And once again, this is a tool that if we take people's ability from using this as a tool for defense, you're making women more vulnerable. You simply are. Biological women will become more vulnerable. They'll become vulnerable to trans women, and they'll become more vulnerable to men. Why will this happen? Because of the fact that they are biologically less physically capable on average than everybody else I listed. If someone with a knife wants to hurt them, let's say someone kicks in the, let's say that you're on a business trip and you're married and your wife is at home with your children, but nobody's allowed to have pow-pows anymore because you said that that's a bad thing because this happens. Well, the person who kicked in the door is a criminal. And not only does he have a pew-pew on his hip, but he has decided he would rather do this work with a machete. How's your wife going to keep your kids safe? How's your wife going to keep herself safe? Let's say that it's you. Do you really think you're going to be able to keep yourself safe in that situation? Because the fact of the matter is, this is a tool that makes it so that your child, as long as they know how to do it, would be capable of leveling the field and protecting themselves and your wife if they had to in that situation. Right? Your kid could be 12 or 13 years old, know how to use it, be safe with it, know all the rules, not be a danger, and protect your family when you're gone from somebody who's a fully grown adult, because this tool levels the playing field. It ignores the biological differences and says, this is the equalizer. Congratulations, you're now able to competently and capably protect yourself from someone who's bigger, who's faster, who's stronger, who has a weapon when you don't. You can now grab this thing, and now your playing field is leveled. Now, what if it's just the machete and your kid just has, all he can do is grab a knife? What if all your wife can do is grab a knife? He's got a fucking machete and a pew-pew because he's already breaking the law. Why wouldn't he? Are you aware that the weapons that they're talking about, the AR-style weapon, is most commonly used by women for self-defense? Out of all firearms for self-defense, this is the one that is most often used by women for self-defense. Now, do you know why? Because it's the easiest one to become proficient with. you have 3 points of contact. Your shoulder, your hand on the trigger and the pistol grip, and your hand on the front. You might have a grip up there, you might just use the magazine, you might just use the barrel or the body, whatever it is, however you have it set up, because there are various different ways you could have it set up. You have 3 points of contact. That means that you keep the gun more stable. That means you're more accurate. That means you're less likely to accidentally shoot somebody in your neighbor's home, your kid, someone through a wall. You're more competently capable of hitting the target with this firearm. It's easier to operate. Because you have both hands and 3 points of contact, and the way that it's designed, it'll actually weigh less as well. It has less recoil. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but the .223 round that is most commonly chambered, 5.56, .223, depends where you go, they'll say it's either one. It's an interchangeable round. The fact is, that round is a varmint round. You're really not going to do anything, you're not going to cause a whole lot of damage to anything larger than a coyote with that. The reason they use it in the military is because you can carry a lot of them. That's why. It's not because it's effective. It's because you can carry a lot of them. They're small, they're light. You can carry a whole lot of them. The fact is, that thing is going to leave a hole that goes in about that big. When it comes out, it's going to leave a hole, instead of that big, about that big. It doesn't get much bigger on its way out. It's not designed to. Use a shotgun, it's going in about this big and coming out about that big. Which one do you think is going to cause more damage, more trauma? And now, not only that, but the shotgun's going to kick hard as hell. It's also harder to load. It's also harder to manage. It's also harder to manipulate because it's so long. The handgun is just, you have 2 points of contact. Both hands, either like this or like this. Oftentimes just one, and you're doing this, right? You're like, if you don't know how to use a handgun well, you're going to have one hand holding it and doing everything. If you're not well trained with a handgun, you are not accurate. It is the hardest firearm to be accurate and capable and competent with. It's the most difficult one. It's the easiest to manipulate because it's so small, but it is the hardest one to become accurate, competent, and capable with. So, through trying to get rid of this one, you're taking away the best form and most common form of not only self-defense, but defense of those around you.
Well, yes, and as you know, normally I probably would be talking to you from Capitol Hill, and what I can say there in terms of talking to lawmakers, obviously Senator Cassidy talked pretty extensively this morning about the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was a bipartisan bill passed last year in response to Uvalde, and he continued to argue that it's a matter of that law being more fully implemented than it is now. That is how he feels.
Now, I'm not fully, I don't know exactly what all's in this bill. The thing is, if they're going to tell you, oh, we're going to have better response times for the police, you can cause a whole lot of damage in 5 minutes. And on average, police response time is closer to 15. Wouldn't it be better if it were you and you were stuck in this situation and you didn't have a good way to get to an exit? All you could do is hunker down and hope they didn't see you. Are you going to feel comfortable waiting the 15 minutes for the cops to get there? Let's go low end average. Let's say 10 minutes for the police to get there. Another 5 minutes for them to gear up and take action because they need to organize, right? So let's say they do that in 5 minutes, which would be an amazing response time. So now you've had to survive for 15 minutes in this very dangerous, hostile situation. Meanwhile, this guy's walking around offing people. Wouldn't you feel safer if you could protect yourself? And you realize these people are also not going to point out the fact that this is an outlet store, like it's an outlet chain area, mall, or whatever you want to call it, that is a gun-free zone. and that happens most often. They go places that are gun-free zones, which if you have a concealed carry permit, you've gone through the training and effort to qualify for one, or in the background checks and everything else to be able to do that, you should be able to carry it wherever the hell you want. I understand you go into a government building and they're like, yeah, you're not bringing it, right? There are certain buildings where it's like, we have armed protection here already, you don't need to bring yours. Okay, I get it. The thing is, if you've gone through that training and the qualification, you should be able to take it anywhere you want. Not only that, but places that have constitutional carry. If you plan to carry, you should be making sure that you are capable, proficient, and accurate with your choice of carry if you choose to carry because you have a constitutional carry in your state. Then you need to make sure that you qualify to use it correctly. Not just, haha, I can do the thing. No, it's much more difficult and nuanced than point and shoot. Okay? There's a lot of technique, a lot of practice. You need to fire thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, and I suggest you get somebody to you pay for somebody to teach you. Pay for an instructor. Not every time, but even if you go like once a week, make it once a month you pay for an instructor. Why? Because you could always do better. You're not going to catch every mistake you do. You're not going to catch every little thing that you're doing wrong, wasted motion, wasted movement, less effective, less efficient. If you have somebody who's there to train you, they're going to point out things like if you're perfectly accurate, right? They're going to point out things that you're losing in efficiency, effectiveness. They're going to critique some form, stances. They're going to get into more advanced things with you. They're going to make you better at it. So why not be as good as possible? That way you're as capable as possible if you were in that situation.
There could be more of it.
That's my point, is get rid of these bullshit soft targets, because that's what they are. Military, we refer to these as soft targets. It's unprotected, it's easy access, because you can come in and out multiple doors, so it's easy access, no protection. There's not something to warn people of the threat going on, like a metal detector on your way in, for instance, things of that nature. It makes it an easy target. Call those soft targets. As soon as you have an armed guard, it's no longer a soft target. Allow people to defend themselves. Remove the soft target from accessibility. This will decrease. It won't go away, but it will decrease. It will especially decrease over time when if that were to go away. You're going to see it decrease over time, especially because the people who will still try it are going to get ended, and their numbers for how many people they're able to effectively injure or end is going to also rapidly decline. Therefore, it's going to be less sensational. We could talk about the people who put an end to these incidents, and we can talk about them as heroes instead of talking about the shooters and immoralizing them. We can be like, yeah, this guy was a piece of shit, he's dead now, and this is the guy who did it, he's a hero. We can immoralize the people who saved everybody else. Make them the people that we talk about. And then all of a sudden, these people don't have a reason to go out and do it, because the game of, can I do better? Can I get more attention? Can I be more notorious? Can I get the most? If I have the most numbers, then I did it the best and I'm the most well known. That all goes away. See, if you strip these things from that, it will rapidly decrease.
An impact, and there really isn't a lot of will right now, certainly among some Republicans, to do more.
See, once again, there's not a lot of will amongst Republicans. That's not true. That's not true. If you actually pay attention to what the discussions have been about this, the Republicans want to do things just as adamantly as the Democrats do. The difference is the discussions of how we resolve the issue. They don't want to admit that the Republicans have solutions. They want to say that the Republicans oppose solutions because they want this to be the only solution available, and it's not. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's the phrase, right? When you go to math class and they teach you how to solve a problem, do they only show you one way? Is there only one way to do the math? Or are there numerous ways to do the math? and still get the same result. Because the fact is, you can go about it more than one way. This is the same. There's more than one way to attack and resolve this issue. And the Democrats propose one solution, and they demand you follow that one solution. The media demands that that is the only solution that will ever work. They ignore any of the arguments about it. They ignore any of the facts about it. They ignore all of the figures and statistics and all the historical precedent of this not being effective anywhere that they've done it. And they ignore all of that. And they also fail to admit the fact that the Republicans are bringing up multiple things that they think are issues that need to be addressed in order to attack this. They don't see it as an, oh, here's the problem, let's solve it. They say, look, this is a problem, but why? We think maybe this, and maybe this, and we need to try and do things about those. And here's what I think we can do about this, but I'm not sure about those yet. I've been thinking about this part of this problem that has several different factors, and I'm only focused on this one part because you're forcing me to be there. And they don't want to have that discussion because they want you to be mentally unstable. They want you to be vulnerable so that they can take advantage of you. Because what happens if you're emotional and you're vulnerable? They pass the Patriot Act.
Beyond that, just because they understand the political dynamics on Capitol Hill. That being said, there is frustration, particularly among Democrats. I spoke with Senator Raphael Warnock just last week after that shooting in Atlanta, and one thing he is urging Senate Democrats and leadership to do is to have a discussion about this, because he says, we're not sitting down and talking about this, and we should. So
once again, it's not that they're not talking about it, it's that they want to talk about it a specific way, and they want to have specific results. And they do not want to talk about anything else being a factor. They don't want to consider any other factors as factors, and they don't want to address any of those things. They just want to have a specific outcome. And when you see somebody in a position of power push for something specific like this, you need to ask why. Because historically speaking, anytime a government targets a specific aspect of society that they want to control, there's a specific reason for it, and it never works out positively for the people that they are in charge of, that they rule over, or that they are elected by. It never works out well for that group of people. It always works out well for the people in power.
His hope is that perhaps, at least within his party, Senate Democrats can come to the table, maybe discuss this during one of their lunches this week. Here in Texas, there is similar frustration. We heard from a Democratic lawmaker earlier today.
Once again, why is it that you're only talking about the Democrats who have a solution when you know their solution is one solution? And it comes from a place of not knowing shit about firearms. Not shit. Why would you ignore everything being said by the right? Because the right has presented several things. They just don't like it.
Who represents Uvalde, who has put forth legislation. He is concerned because the legislative session is almost over, and the legislature hasn't really taken up these bills. And he says these are common sense safety measures.
Common sense to who? Because like I said, common sense from these legislators, from these people in politics on the left specifically, as well as the people in media who purport this and the people that they bring on to discuss this, when they talk about common sense gun laws, these are common sense to people who don't know shit about guns. You don't know anything about firearms, yet you have common sense gun laws. But yet you also say things that are absolutely ridiculous. You know why people don't use an AR-15 to shoot deer? Because there'd be nothing left. That is literally what the hell these lawmakers on the left have said. This is a quote from a Democrat that was recently made. I don't remember his name because I don't care about him. He's an idiot. And it's with a dumb stance from a place of ignorance about a subject he knows nothing about. The reason you don't use an AR-15 to hunt deer is because it's typically set up in a caliber, like I said earlier, 5.56 or .223, which is very small. It's not going to be effective on anything larger than a coyote. A deer is much larger than a coyote. It's not that it's going to turn it into nothing. It's that you're going to have to shoot so many rounds into the deer to drop it that it's not effective. It's better to use a larger rifle. Not only that, people do use an AR-15 to shoot deer because you can have it chambered in a larger caliber. A caliber that does work on deer. And I know people who do so because you can get a magazine for the AR-15 as well as the right caliber upper that you're not violating any of the laws around magazine size, the amount of rounds in your firearm, the amount of rounds that your firearm's capable of holding, or caliber of firearm. If you actually look up, you can grab these books for free. You can grab a large game hunting book for free at a fishing outlet or an outdoor store. You can grab it. It will tell you in there caliber sizes that you have to use on specific types of game. You can grab one for small game too, and it will once again tell you caliber sizes that you need to use. That's because certain caliber sizes are ineffective. When they're telling you you don't use a certain gun, it's because they don't know shit about guns. It's not the gun that's making people decide what to hunt with. It's the caliber, because the caliber is the effectiveness of the weapon. Dumbasses.
That's providing more training and resources for first responders, more mental health resources, school safety.
Mental health resources don't mean shit if people don't acknowledge their mental illness or seek help.
Initiatives that he would like to see some movement on, but yet again, here in the Republican-controlled legislature, there hasn't been that much action.
There hasn't been that much action on the Republican-handled legislature. And look at her shit-eating face. Now, you want to know what Republicans in Texas have done? Let's put armed guards in all the schools that do not currently have armed guards. Amazing. You know why this is an amazing thought process, which people are, you know how the left is attacking this and people like her are attacking this, and every newscaster we saw on this, you know how they're all attacking that idea? So your solution is more guns? Yes, it is. Guns in the hands of good people, with good intentions, with good desires. Guns in the hands of people who want to protect and defend, not harm, maim, and kill. When you go to CBS's headquarters building or CNN's headquarters building, you know what you find? Armed security. When you go to the bank, you know what's there? Armed security. When you go to, say, any kind of political building, when you go to a courthouse, you know what you find? Armed security. You know why? Oh, wait a minute. You go to a mint where they print your money, or the Federal Reserve, which isn't a federal building. It has no connection to the federal government. It's just our centralized bank, but it's not part of our government. It's completely separate. You know what you find there? Armed security. Now, this is because of the fact that the first step in protecting things that you find precious is to defend them by placing people there who are capable of defending them with the tools that are going to be the most effective at defending whatever's inside. That happens to be firearms and people who are capable of using them. So, why would we not do this at schools where we have our children who are precious to us? They don't like the solutions being presented by the right. It's not that the right doesn't have any, it's that the media doesn't want to acknowledge them. Because if they acknowledge them, all of a sudden the people realize, oh fuck, there's more options. Because if the media can tell you that there's only one solution and the right just doesn't want to hear it, they don't want to deal with it, there's not any more solutions, this is the only one we can take, there's only one way to fix the problem, and they don't want to show you more, if they can get you to believe that they are telling you the only possible solution and that there's not another one out there, if they can get you to believe that, once again, the bad side of politics, the right side of politics, the Republicans, doesn't have a solution and they are just shooting down the only solution, it makes them look even worse, does it not? If it's not even that they don't have the problem isn't that they just have a solution that is disagreeable, it's that they don't have a solution at all. If they can do that and make you believe it, then all of a sudden, why would you vote for somebody who doesn't even want to fix problems? That's dumb as fuck, isn't it? Well, that's not the case. That's not what's going on. It's that the media doesn't like the solutions being presented by that side. Things like this, everything that I've pointed out watching this 6-minute video for the last hour, because of the fact that they are ignoring specific facts, the fact that they are presenting information based on conjecture, that they are not experts on, but they're going to talk about it like they are, the fact that they're leaving out historical precedent and facts, the fact that they're skewing the information to leave out relevant information and facts, like what I just pointed out for, like, I feel the 100th time, where they're not pointing out shit that the right is doing and framing it to be that the right is bad. These types of things and actions are why Donald Trump called them fake news, because they are not presenting you with all the facts so that you can have the information and come up to your own end. So that way you can have for you to have your own opinion, for you to come up with your own solution, for you to have your own way to go about these types of things, you have to have all the information. You have to have all the facts. If they only present you with some of the information, if they only present you with some of the facts, they can frame the outcome. They can get you to want a specific outcome. And the reason they do it this way is because it's convenient for them. They have something to gain by this. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it this way. Don't let them fool you into thinking that they give a fuck about you. They don't. There's more going on that we simply don't see that they care about. And that's the way that it works. Don't let them fool you into thinking that they're presenting you with all the information. They're presenting you with specific facts and information in a specific framing and phrasing to get you to feel a specific way about people and topics, to get you to respond a specific way with your vote and with your actions toward other people in society. And they're not having honest discussions, and they're not reporting honestly on the topic. This is why I don't watch this type of shit. They're never honest with you about it, and all it does is fucking make me mad.